Kinango is standing by with his guest there. Today we're talking about something different. Journalists moving to politics. Are they really going to hold the people there accountable? Because they're used to asking them to be accountable to everything they do. Now this time they're the ones who are in there. Are they going to be any different? Speaking of journalists, with me today is Medoni wa Mushomba, Kiambu Women Rep elect, one of the highest, most voted for persons in the country. Thanks for making time for us. We'll get into that detail about the politics of journalists getting into politicians and what you think about the general scene in politics today. But before we get to that, Dan Mwangi is here with the latest in the business world. Dan, how's the plastic ban coming?
Well, the plastic ban is coming. It's really coming, Trevor, because we've seen a number of people actually on business will be having some reactions and how people are finding themselves in different marketplaces in Kikuyu, in Nyamira, in various parts of the country. We're having many people who are already adapting to this. We'll be looking at this and much more, also including taking a look at how some companies are actually acquiring others. We're seeing some mergers. We'll look at this and more on business when we come to that part. But for now, I take you back to Trevor to have the conversation on politics and more with the woman representative-elect of the county of Kiambu, where I was covering, and like Trevor rightly said, she was one of the most voted for people in the country.
You're from Kiambu, right, Dan?
Actually, where I come from is actually just off Kiambu. It's Muranga. But you know, the water you take in Nairobi comes from where I come from.
Thanks, Dan, for making that very clear. We'll catch up with Dan in just a bit to speak more about the politics and, of course, the plastic ban and much more in business. But before we cross over to Mwangangi in Mombasa, let's start with my guest in studio. Thanks for making time for us, Medoni. And the question in many people's minds is, journalists are now moving to become politicians. These are the same people you've been holding to account when you are journalists. How different are you going to be?
I think you have no choice as a journalist who has been promoted or has moved into leadership, other than just being very, very, very efficient. Because you know what you have been looking for and what you have been pushing for, and therefore you know what is expected. As for me, I know. For the last 20 years, I've been having this kind of discussions with politicians, with leaders, and I can only be ignorant if I assumed that I do not know what is expected of me. Because, of course, having interacted with the people, the community for such a long time, you know the community ills, you know the loopholes, and you know the gaps. Yes. And
those are the same things prior politicians have always been talking about. I will do this, I will invest in that, but then when they get there, they don't do it. So how are you going to ensure that it's going to be done?
I think political leadership is a matrix of many things other than just being you as a leader. There are so many other things that surrounds the politician that may hinder effective development or efficiency development, or may promote. So it's not about that person alone, because you do not work in isolation. You work in a community that has its own systems, and if those systems are not conducive for your performance, you may not succeed, even when you really know what is expected of you. Sometimes, and I'll give you a very good example, if you go into a community and you find that they drink unfiltered water, you just can't go there. Even if you know that this is unfiltered water, you just can't go there and force them to take filtered water. You just have to, conform with the lifestyles of the community, and probably maybe start creating an environment for paradigm shift. But you just can't go there and just bring change abruptly, because it may not go well with the community. So I'm trying to say, in as much as we've been journalists and now we have moved into political leadership, we are not expected to perform magic. Magic is not expected. It may be gradual, but it has to happen. Of course, we know what is expected of us, but it has to conform with what people's expectations are.
And speaking of which, Kiambu, you're the women rep of that area now, elected before you're sworn in. What are the priorities there? What are your priorities?
Alcohol, alcohol, alcohol.
Okay.
My first priority, we must come up as leaders. We must come up with a solution, a workable solution for reducing alcoholism in our county, because without doing that, we may not be able even to sort out many other things that are expected. For example, I know 70% of my voters, the people who gave me a lot of votes, actually, I'm very humbled because they really honored me by the many votes they gave me. If I really want to help my voters, the people who gave me votes, 70% of them being the people between 35 and 45, they are really affected by alcoholism. So before I even come up with any other working solution for their lives, I must look and find for solution to reduce alcoholism and drug abuse in my county.
Off the top of your head, how are you looking at approaching this? Because fighting alcohol is a very difficult thing. No, considering alcoholism itself is a disease.
First of all, I cannot say that I'm going to do it alone. Yeah. We must come up with a working formula for all leaders and all stakeholders and community at large. Because I do believe solution to such kind of problems that really affect people at the social level can only be found from the community itself.
Okay.
Solutions to the community can only come out from the same community. So I need to come up with a working solutions between myself as a leader and other leaders, that is from the governor, the senator, the MPs, the MCs, and even church leaders, all the way down to the community, so that we can come up with a solution. But the system has to be a solution that is providing preventive interventions, that is to prevent the young and the productive group of our society from getting into alcoholism. And we also need to provide interventions for treatment, because there are those that are really affected, and the only way out is to get treatment.
Is that your priority? Is that what you want to leave as a legacy, or is there something else?
I must provide a working solution. I know it's a really uphill task, but I have to do it, because if I don't do it, how else will I be able to affirm my women? If I affirm, I empower a woman and her husband is still drunkard, I'm doing nothing. I've had cases of women who actually get a lot of empowerment from youth, from Women Fund. A lot of resources around women are available in my county. But once this woman gets this money, the husband has no space for her to even utilize the funds. She'll buy a cow, and the cow will be sold off in a bar or in the streets, and the money is gone. So without sorting out alcoholism in Kiambu County, it might be very difficult to implement any other program. Let me tell you, any problem around, most of the problems, let me not say any, most of the problems around health in Kiambu, most of them originate and relate to alcoholism. Talk of HIV, talk of TB, talk of diabetes, and such like diseases or health gaps. If you consolidate 20 addicts and take them for health tests, you'll be surprised. So the underlying fundamental reasons why they are addicted is not because they really are thirsty of alcohol. They are using alcohol to cover up other issues that are underlying. So we need to first of all remove the alcohol so that we can be able to understand the underlying issues, and therefore we provide solutions.
I want you to talk to me about the Homa Bay County Women Rep Gladys Wanga is expected to hold a press conference today. She's also a PSC commissioner. It's going to talk about the remuneration of MPs. And I want you to hear your views on that. Should that even be reviewed? Because you haven't even started yet. But before we get into that, let's cross over to Mombasa, where Peter Mwangangi is also standing by with some journalists who have crossed over to politics. Let's hear what the coastal town of Mombasa, their perspective is from now. Peter?
Thank you, Trevor. Yes, indeed, today we want to discuss the new direction that coast politics is taking, especially after the just concluded general election. And I have now two new members of parliament elect with me. We'll be talking more about that. On my immediate right, we have Mr. Paul Katana, the new member of parliament elect for Kaloleni constituency, and Benjamin Tayari, the new member of parliament elect.
How long are you giving him?
From Kinango, that is in Kwale County, and Katana is from Kilifi County. We are talking about, the two of them are youthful members of parliament, and we want to talk about how they ousted veteran politicians in this particular part of the country. But I'll start with Katana. Katana, you've been a journalist. You are here at the Nation Media Group a while back. Tell us about that and the transition now to member of parliament.
I worked for Nation for about 7 years. and I left active journalism in 2000. Then I ventured into public or private businesses. And in 2002 or 3, I worked for the late Honorable Karisa Maita as his political advisor. Then from there, I joined the current Mombasa governor, Ali Hassan Joho, when he was during the by-election, Kisauni by-election, where he lost to Maboza. Then after he lost, we lay a strategy on how we are going to win the 2007 election in Kisauni. And I tried to vie for, by then it was a councillor for Freetown. I lost, and after that I became the campaign manager for Joho, and we did all what we could, and we won.
And then you decided now to run. Why?
My people from Kaloleni asked me to go and run for the parliamentary seat. So I was a little bit resistant, but they said you have to come because of my experience, and I've been assisting my people even before I decided to join active politics. So in 2013, I voted for the Kaloleni parliamentary seat, and I narrowly lost to the former MP. And I didn't vanish from the vicinity. I tirelessly worked for the Kaloleni people, assisting them in various areas like education, paying school fees, offsetting medical bills, and conducting some fundraising for the churches, mosques. And that's what propelled me now to lay a very good foundation for 2017.
Let us cross over a little bit to Benjamin Tayari.
Yes.
In Kinango, we had Gonzirai being the member of parliament there for 20 years.
Yes.
And people know you as a businessman. Tell us a little bit about the transition from business to politics and how you managed to defeat a veteran.
Thank you very much, Mugangi. I think if you look at my political journey, I started in 2013. In 2013, I vied for the Kinango parliamentary seat, and I lost with a small margin. And that's when I felt that the people of Kinango are really preparing for a new transition to get a new member of parliament. What actually made me feel that it's an opportunity for us to bring a new leader is because many people were complaining about having a single leader for so many years and actually not getting any new development projects which have been brought forward. So it was a bit of people are tired, and also the problems which they're facing, they're not changing. So it was a bit tricky, but I really had to work very hard, especially convincing the old guards, because my system of leadership is quite engaging the youth and women. That is where we won most of the votes in Kinango.
You spoke about problems, and Kilifi and Kwale County, especially the constituencies that you represent, have a common denominator, and that is poverty, low levels of education. Now people are looking at you to deliver. What can you promise the residents of your constituency that after the expiry of the current term, you will have done something?
For me, I have a plan for the youth. I have a plan for the women, and I'll engage them more. You see, you have to listen to them, ask them exactly what they want to be done. You know, over the period of years, our leaders worked in isolation with the community. So I want to involve all the community. I want to bring on board all the professionals in Kaloleni. I want to bring on board some experts who can give us expertise in terms of education, provision of water, health and infrastructure, because that's where the problem lies, especially with education. You know, you cannot develop any region or any country if the education standards are very, very low. And that's the problem in Kaloleni. And I want to start from there.
For Kinango, what is your strategy?
Kinango is quite challenging because I think it is one of the constituencies in the whole country which does not have even a single kilometer of tarmac road. So one thing which we really want to improve is first is infrastructure, because if you don't have good infrastructure, you cannot do anything business-wise, even for education, for the education sector. We have almost 163 primary schools, and they are all, not all, but I think 70% of them are in very poor state. So I really want to invest in education. That's something which I really want to work hard on, to make sure that the state of the schools are really improved. And then I really want to see the sharing of resources from the government, because we cannot accept that we are in the same country but other constituencies are more developed than our constituency. I don't see the reason why other constituencies have tarmac roads and Kinango we don't have anything like that. So I really want to engage the government in this to prove to us that we are a single country and not different countries.
And unlike Kilifi County, where all members of parliament elect are from the ODM party, especially for you, we saw the governor being elected on a Jubilee party ticket. What would be the relationship now, considering you're from ODM, and ensuring that the people benefit?
I think when it comes to development or serving the people, personally, I think that party politics should not be an issue. What we want, I think, both for the governor and I, is to make sure that we bring projects which will help the community. And I don't have any problems with Governor Vuria. He's in Jubilee, I'm in ODM, but what we want is service to the people. That's what we want.
Let's talk a little bit about how the two of you won. In Kilifi County, we saw the tallying being stopped at some point. Did that affect how you perceive the outcome of this election?
No, what happened, those who lost, especially the guys from Jubilee, they wanted to cause chaos so that this tallying will be stopped. And we said no. We stood our ground because the elections were very fair. And if they have any reason to believe that they were stolen, they should follow the law. They should go to court and let the court decide. But as of the moment, the elections were conducted fairly. And now it's us as leaders now to try and deliver the promises we made to our people. But after, I've also asked my competitors to join me and build Kaloleni, because we were elected, the people made their choice, and we have no business to be rivals. We want to bring them on board, and then after my 5 years term, the people will decide if I've performed, they'll give me another term. So there should be no problem at all.
And I believe that is a message to Gonga Mwinga.
It was not the only one. We are 11 of us.
Yes.
Yeah. And as my brothers put it right, the coast region has lagged behind in terms of development. And we have seen a concerted effort by the central government to divide coastal leaders. But this time round, we have decided to work as one. Our unity is our strength. And let me put it very clear. We are not going to beg the government to assist us. We are going to demand what is rightful for us. Because this country got independent on the same day. We are paying taxes as any other Kenyan. So we are going to demand what is rightful for the coastal people. And we are not going to join the government just because we want to look for favors. We are not going to look for favors here. We are going to demand what is rightful ours.
Gonzirai.
Yes.
Your message to him, has he conceded defeat? What is the situation?
I think he has conceded defeat, and I've heard from his close allies that he's looking forward to a new beginning. But I think one of these days I'll sit with him and just ask him if he's happy that now we have a new member of parliament. But I think we don't have problems, because even in 2013, after I lost, I went to him and I told him I wish you all the best, and let's wait for 2017. So this time around, it's actually our turn to ensure that we deliver to the people of Kinango. And if we don't deliver, then we'll have questions to answer. But I think we have a new generation of leaders who are really, really ready, especially in the Coast Province. I think you saw in Kinango we had, personally, I had the governor, the women rep and the MP. They were all from Jubilee, and they were all campaigning together. But I stood firm, and I made sure that I don't fall behind in the campaigning period. So we did a good job, and I think people are really expecting something new from us.
Let us now talk a little bit of regional politics here in the Coast region. Yesterday and the day before, we saw Governor Hassan Joho and Kilifi Governor Amason Kingi saying that they are now focusing on 2022. And one of the things they are saying, it's very interesting, they say they now want to put the coast basket, vote into one basket, to consolidate it, to ensure that in 2022 they have a very high stake. Is that even possible?
It is very possible. It is very, very possible. With the unity of the coastal, that one can achieve it. And that's what I've just said. Our unity is our strength. And we have seen in the past that leaders were divided into party issues. But as of now, we have agreed to move together. And we are looking at Joho and Kingi as the only leaders who have stood with the coastal people. But the rest, you have seen them, they were given some handouts, and they just left the people alone. And that's why they were punished in this just concluded general election. So we'll listen more to the people, what they want, and we'll work with them closely. So yes, it is possible. We are encouraging Joho and Kingi not to backtrack on what they've said, and we are there for them.
I think it's very much possible, because if you look at the voting pattern in Coast Province, you'll see that it's only in Kwale, I think, we have Jubilee governor and one member of parliament from Jubilee, but the rest are NAS affiliated. Only in Lamu is where we've lost. But I think if you look properly, you'll see that the new generation of leaders who were elected, they are all people who can sit together, have a common cause, and look forward to a new beginning. And this is actually what we want. We want, come 2022, that we are also people who can have a bargaining power in the next government.
But the last time, during these campaigns, when Joho, Kingi and Bruto and other leaders tried to go to other counties in the Coast region, we saw them being chased away with mangoes. In Peketoni, that is in Lamu County, and even in Kwale County, in Kinango, they were tear gassed and the meeting was disrupted.
I think this was a stage managed by the state to diminish our leaders, that they are unpopular. But I think the results of this election has spoken.
So it's exactly what Mheshimiwa is saying here. Like in Kinango, they really tried to, because it was really a Jubilee area, especially that the MP was Jubilee, members of parliament were Jubilee, and the governor. So they really tried to make sure that we don't have a voice in trying to bring our cause, that we really want change. But the people gave an answer. They said, no, we don't want this side, we really want this side. And that is exactly what happened. So it is very much possible for us to stick together. And especially when you do something like that to the people or to the community, you are making them even more angry and furious, because do that if you've done something for them. But what can you say in Kinango? There's nothing which the state has done in the past 5 years.
You've seen them launching a few roads during the campaign. Samburu, Kinango Road. In Kanareni, in Kilifi County.
These were meant to doing the public so that they could vote for Jubilee. They were not, and if Jubilee was serious about whatever they initiated, let us see them now.
Yes.
Let them come and say this is what we meant.
Yes.
Let them do exactly what they said.
Exactly.
But when we talk about unity, two initiatives have failed. Jumuiya ya Pwani. Let's talk about Jumuiya ya Pwani and the Coast Parliamentary Group. Let's start with Jumuiya ya Counties of Pwani. People say that it was a caucus of the 6 governors in the coast region. Then at some point the fire went down and died.
I'll take that one first. I think Jumuiya ya County collapsed because of some few factors. I think one of the factors was that Jubilee managed to infiltrate the former MPs and governors with some few handouts, so that they split the voting bloc of Coast Province. But if you look now, we are going to ignite again the process. We're going to start it again. We're going to make sure that this is something which we discussed the last few days, that we really want to make sure that the Jumuiya County Zapwani has a new start. And the fact is that we have so many members of parliament from the opposition, that is the NASA coalition, and we can now sit together with the 2 governors who were elected, the 3 governors who were elected on the NASA ticket, to make sure that we now have a new face for the coastal people. This is what we're going to do, and and we are going to make sure that this thing of handouts, those people who are getting handouts to disrupt the coastal people, does not happen again. So I think we have something new coming.
Jumuiya Counties of Pwani.
Yeah, because as he has put it rightly, the Jubilee government made all efforts to make sure that the coastal are not uniting. We have learned from the past, and this time round it won't be the same.
But even without the Jubilee factor coming in there, at the time you had more governors in the opposition than you have now. If it failed then, no, can you say
it did not fail? It did not fail. What happened is that after the division which was brought in by Jubilee,
yes,
it just went down. But the idea is still there, and we are going to work on that one.
But even now we cannot roll out the interest. It's not just the coast leaders who are interested in the votes in this region.
Yes.
We're going to see more, especially those who are lining themselves up for 2022 coming in. How do you now plan to seal that? How will, of course you may not be involved in, but how can that be sealed?
It's too early. It's too early. We are working on that. We'll sit as leaders, and we'll come up with a plan on how we're going to move from now to 2022.
And we're also going to involve most of our landed friends, especially in the coast province. We have so many people who are very, very smart. And I think in the last elections of 2013, many of them were not involved in these projects, which we coastal people wanted to do. So I think we're going to involve them more and engage them more in bringing new ideas on how we can move forward together.
When you talk about the Jumuiya, that involved mostly the governors, but the Coast Parliamentary Group includes head parliamentarians like you are. People say that it also did not work.
It had its own shortcomings, but as I've said, we are learning. We have learned the mistakes which our previous leaders did, and we do not go through the same route. So we are meeting as a coastal MPs elect, and we'll have an agenda for the coastal region for the coming 5 years.
Yeah, that's the thing. We've been engaging in those meetings, and I think we really want to have something different from the Coast Parliamentary Group which used to not to be on the same track, because there were these guys like Kinango who had been sorry to say it, but they say brown envelope guys. But I think now
you cannot say that you don't have the evidence.
Yeah, that was the saying of the people in the Coast Province. But I think now we have a new beginning, and I think one of the things which happened also, they did not have the financial support really to engage the people in a better way. So I think we are going to sit to come up with a plan as coastal leaders to make sure also that we have a fund which is going to help us in moving around in giving our views on what we want to do.
Before we get out of this topic entirely and look at something else. There was at some point some suggestion that there should be one party for people in the coast region. Is that a proposal at the moment? Do you think it would work?
Not at the moment, because you see, everybody has a right to join any political party which he or she thinks wants. But as time goes by, we'll come up with but it's too early for us to speak about it.
The one problem, that is my second issue before we get out of this topic, is that these initiatives are always seen as a way of making somebody more popular, just one person more popular, as compared to, it's seen as a way of creating a kingpin. And that is why I think, apart from the Jubilee factor, some people might have shied away from this. How do you avoid that in making sure that it's a unified front from the coast region?
As I've said, we have learned our mistakes, and we are coming up with a new idea that we are going to engage the people more. We are going to engage our professionals, so that we can have a common stand. We can have a common approach on the issues which are affecting the region. Then we'll give a stand to the people.
Let us now talk about, let us go back to your constituencies and talk about the issues. We spoke about education, and I had mentioned earlier about poverty. But we've seen a lot of relief food being distributed to those areas because of drought.
Yes.
That issue, especially in Kilifi and Kwale counties, appears still to be dogging the population. What are you planning to do to ensure that that situation is improved?
I think personally, especially in our area, the relief food really actually started during the campaign period. And one of the problems was the lack of rains. And one thing which we want to do is to sit with the county governments, especially in Kinango. We want to sit with the county government, because most of those projects fall under the county government, and come up with something. Like in Kinango, we have the Nyalani Dam, whereas we can use this project to create more, to put more food on the table for the people. Because if we don't have rains, we have to come up with something else, something new to help the people. And we have so many water resources in Kwale County, where we can tap those resources to help the community. That's something which we have to sit with the county governments and come up with something new.
And as compared to some other leaders who may not have a kitty, you'll have a CDF at some point. Do you plan to use some of those resources?
You see, as leaders, the MCA has his mandate. The members of parliament have their own mandate, and the governor have also their own mandate. We have to sit together and agree which kind of projects we want to do for our people. We don't want that duplication of projects. So there are some areas which are involved, like agriculture, irrigation. So we'll have to work closely with the governor. We have to work closely with the MCAs, so that we can have one project which is beneficial to the people.
Yeah, that's the thing, because I can't. The CDF kitty is not enough to create a big project which will help in doing like 5,000 acres of land to put up a maize plantation. It's not possible. But the county government is able to do that. So we just have to come up together, sit together, and look for ideas on how we're going to help our people. That's the way forward. Because
the CDF kit, the member of parliament is supposed to do education and security.
Yes.
Those are the only functions the member of parliament is supposed to do. But we can work closely with as I put it, with the government, to see that some of the projects we are doing, we are not duplicating with that. We can move forward.
Let us also talk about youth employment. Coast region has high numbers of youth who are not employed, and as leaders, I'm sure many people will be looking up to you, and I'm sure you were telling me earlier today that some people have already started coming to you for help. How do you plan now to deal with that?
Unemployment is a national issue, but as a member of Kaloleni, I have my own plans. I want to engage the youth. You cannot assist individuals, so they have to form some groups and see how best you can work with these groups. They should have some project proposals and see the best way forward. But assisting an individual to be a very hard task to do. But if they are in a group, then you can look for any project that can actually make some generating money for them.
And especially for you, before you go to Benjamin, we saw you having a lot of initiatives with the youth.
Yes.
In the run-up to the general election, we saw some youth tournaments.
Yes.
Is this going to continue, or do you have now a different strategy?
This one will continue because you see, youth have a lot of talent, and you have to tap them from the young level. There are those who can sing properly, there are those who can play football, there are those who can play basketball. We have to nurture these talents, because not all of them will be employed in white-collar jobs. So we have to nurture the talents and improve them, so that you have seen people earning a lot of money in football, but they might not be the best in class. So we have to nurture the talents of our youth and see how best we can assist them and become good citizens in this country.
I think what we have in my region, or my constituency, is that many youth opt to do this border business, and I think that's not the only solution to help in job creation. What I have in plan is that I want to engage the youth in making sure that we empower them to be self-reliant. Because if you depend on the member of parliament to give you 200 bob or 300 bob every week, that one is not helping with anything at all in life. So we want to come up with something which will help them so that they have their own thing. One of these issues is to creating the groups, make their own companies. We have so many jobs which are going around, especially that the governments are coming up and developing some few things. So if we give them some few jobs to do for themselves, give them some loans, make sure that they can do the jobs like these small tenders of supplies and whatever it is. If they can do that, create their own income, then it will be possible for them to go ahead and start other businesses. This is something which I have been having in mind, and this is something which I've been planning, and I want to create a fund for them to be able to do that. So in every ward we have a group which has been empowered, which is doing some business and creating resources for themselves. This is my plan.
Let us now talk a little bit of national politics. Everybody in the country right now is awaiting the decision of the Supreme Court and the hearing and examination of that case that is challenging the presidential results. Yesterday all of you were at the Mama Ngina Drive when Raila Odinga said that they will also be launching a national campaign for truth and justice for electoral process. What is your take on that? Some people are saying that this is a call for mass action.
I don't really think about it. What the former Prime Minister said is that we should wait for the outcome of the court results, the Supreme Court results, and then from there we are going to do. We are going to be directed on what we are going to do. And this should not be seen as a mass action. You know, you can protest in a peaceful way. Yes. It's not necessary that you have to distract or destroy any property. You can express your feeling. You can even decide to sit and not to do anything. But as a party, we are waiting for the outcome of the court results, and then from there we are going to make a decision.
What if the ruling doesn't favor NASA?
We have options after that. We'll sit and decide the next course of action. But as of now, we are giving the court the freedom to decide. I think tomorrow the estimation of the case will be there, and we have able lawyers whom we trust that are capable of making good progress in the petition.
I think what was brought forward is that we want to have something for the future. not only for now but for the future, that we want to see a democratic process whereas leaders are elected because of the will of the people. But we don't want leaders who are elected on dubious ways or on a way like imposing somebody on somebody. So I think it is a process which we want to create some transparency for the future purposes. And if it wins now, it will be good for the country, because we've seen also in other democratic countries where after the elections people are protesting. It's normal, but I don't see the reason why in Kenya, if somebody is protesting, then he's taken as the other day they were being shot, they're being told these are thugs or whatever it is. So it's not right at all. So we want something which is going to really show the country that we are one, we are united, but more important, democracy must prevail.
The two of you, as we conclude, have told me, and you said that you have faith in your results, that you want fair and square. And this is the argument that has been given by those who oppose the opposition, especially those from the Jubilee administration. They are saying, if the election for the members of parliament elected governors and MCAs was okay, how come the one for the presidential was closed?
For the parliamentary, the results were announced at the tallying station. But for the presidential, they were transmitted to the National Tallying Center, and that's where the problem was. The results were declared at the polling stations, or the results were declared at the constituency offices, are not reflecting the ones which were transmitted to General.
Your quick response and your final words as we conclude.
I think Mheshimiwa has put it right. There was a second link in the transmission of the results from the polling stations to the national level. So that is where we as NASA team feel that there was something which happened which did not reflect the results which are the polling station than the ones which were read at Bomas. But I think one thing which we want to tell Wananchi is that Kenya is one, and we should all live in harmony. But we have to make sure that democracy is respected. This is how we are going to live in peace and harmony. And Kenya is very much respected in the international community, and we should really be happy that people are always thinking about us as a model country in the African continent. So we should also portray the same image to the international community that we are ready to work together as a people to make sure that democracy prevails. And I really look forward to do better in Kinango than what my former member of parliament did, and I believe that we can achieve this in the coming 5 years.
30 seconds, your final statement.
I want to commend the media for their big role which they played during the campaigns time and even after this. Being a member of the Fourth Estate, I have seen some efforts by the central government to muzzle the press. That will be one of my areas where that I'll work tirelessly to make sure that the press is given its freedom to enlighten the people. Yeah, because if you muzzle the press, that the public will be kept out from the information which is required. And I would wish the media to continue, especially this during the petition. You have to enlighten the people. Let them see exactly what transpired during the transmission of the results from the constituency tallying station to the national level. And for my people in Kaloleni, I'll make sure that I fulfill the promises I made during the campaign.
Of course, we will be waiting to see in 2022 how much you have done for the constituency and also for the country, especially in the National Assembly. Paul Katana there, Member of Parliament elect for Kaloleni constituency, that is in Kilifi County, and also Benjamin Tayari, the Member of Parliament elect for Kinango constituency in Kwale County. We spoke about a wide range of issues from their constituencies to coast politics and national politics. That is all for now. Back to Trevor Mbija in Nairobi for more.
Thanks, Peter, for that informative session with journalists who have transitioned to be politicians now. Gadoni wa Mushomba is kind enough to be with me. We'll still be talking to her as well later on. But right now, let's cross over to Andrew Chieng, who's at the NHIF building, where Professor Judy Wahungu is expected to be speaking about the ban on plastics. Andrew?
Well, thank you, Trevor. As you rightly mentioned, there was a press conference a few minutes ago here by the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources, as well as the Director General of NEMA, just giving an overview of what is expected from next week when the ban on the use of polythene bags is on literally all across the country. And they are saying that their main target, of course, initially will be the factories that are manufacturing this polythene and plastic bags before these plastic bags reach the ordinary mwananchi, and they've given a lot of alternatives. If you can see behind me, they've also been talking about alternatives